Okay, folks, so here's the setup for the trace file that we're going to take right now. It's a baseline. It's going to be on this little web camera, this Linksys web camera. It is wireless, but it's also wired. So if you take a look here at the back, you'll see that there's a wired connection. And I'm going to just share some tips and tricks with you along the way to see if this stuff kind of helps you out. So how are we going to intercept this traffic? Well, on the wireless side, it's tougher than the wired side. So I'm using a good old Netgear dual speed hub. You can use a regular speed hub, it doesn't matter. Gig is irrelevant. People will always complain, what about gig? Well, this is not a performance baseline. It's a baseline of how the thing talks when it starts up. It's a boot up baseline, or even a login baseline would be fine for a hub as well. So what are we doing down here? Well, we've got this blue cable, which goes over here. We've got this purple lavender kind of cable, which goes to my computer. And then we've got this pink cable that goes to the network. So now here's the trick. You have to make sure down here, that says 100 meg, that's the left light, and the right light is 10 meg. So you have to make sure the left lights are all on the dual speed hub. If this guy had the right light on, in other words it was 10 meg, I wouldn't see anything, right? I would only see the broadcast. So please make sure if you have a dual speed hub, you have the same speed on all the ports. That's kind of critical. And then what we're going to do is literally I just put the power on and I started capturing with Wireshark, and we're going to review the trace file and see what it looks like. Okay folks, so you've got your capture now, and there's just a little side note more than anything. You might want to consider having two captures. So this very first one I did is the actual Linksys Cisco webcam not connected to the network, just to see what it would do. So when you get this type of trace, you're going to see two types of traffic in there. Obviously your laptop and obviously the camera. So I'm going to go to statistics, endpoints, name resolution, and then I can see my Cisco Linksys MAC address. It's pretty obvious, and that's me, the Dell. So right click, apply, and select it. When I do that, now I can just see what's going on. So you see the DHCP discovery process. You might want to document how long it waits before it gives up on DHCP. And then you can see it looking for this 133.10. We don't know what that is yet. Who knows what that is? But it's looking for something for some reason. And we can figure all this out as we go along, okay? But that's a trace you might want when it's not connected to the network, because this will come back again. So now we've got it connected to the network, and we've got our trace file, and I can see the DHCP discover packet from the device. Some things you might want to look for: UDP. You see it says checksum correct, and that means it's actually putting the proper UDP checksum in there, because that is optional. Some DHCP relays and IP helper addresses don't like DHCP packets if the checksum's incorrect. I've seen that before, not always, but I've seen that before. And then here in the bootstrap protocol, your DHCP packet, if you move down a little bit, you can pay attention to a few things. Down here it says parameter request list. Click, and you can see all the things it's looking for. And this is a good thing to know. So you can actually match this with your DHCP scope. And there's some pretty cool stuff in there. For example, you can see, where's that? Network time protocol server. So if you need a time server, you can actually obviously provide your own if you'd like. So on and so on and so on. So this is pretty obvious what it is. There's also this vendor class identifier, which I talked about in previous videos, and that's good to know as well. And obviously the host name, which is configurable right within the interface. So that's a DHCP process, one thing you should know about. The other thing is, once it gets an IP address, it's going to do this gratuitous ARP thing, for lack of a better word, to broadcast. And what it's doing is making sure the IP it got via DHCP in this case is unique. It's a duplicate IP address kind of algorithm, if you will. So it wants to make sure nobody else has my IP. So I asked the world, who has the MAC for my IP? Hopefully nobody responds. If that's the case, then I'll use it. And that's really important to know, because most Microsoft machines, for example, only do this 3 times. In this case, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. And then off we go to the races. Then we see an NTP, right? Network Time Protocol packet go out. And you can see it's going out to this hard-coded address. Look familiar, huh? And the big key here is I didn't see any DNS lookups for a time server. I didn't see that at all. So this is hard-coded within the camera, and it's not using a name. It's using IP addresses as an NTP server request. So if I go back to the camera, here's the web interface of the camera, by the way, you'll see that there's nothing in here about time servers. We've got our IP address, all the regular stuff, but nothing in here about time servers. I've been through this whole thing backwards and forwards. So that's hard-coded. So if you want to override this, a good test would be to provide your own time server with it via DHCP, right? That'd be kind of cool. And so on and so on and so on. So you can see that's the NTP part of it. SSDP, right? And that's the simple service discovery protocol that devices use so you can find them on the network. This does have a setting. So if I come over to, I believe it's options. Yeah. See, and it's some of them will have it buried within this universal plug and play protocol. And you can play with this and disable it and see if that goes away if you don't want to have that. And as a rule of thumb, I don't like SSDP. I don't like UPnP. I don't really find a purpose for that. But you may want it, you may not want it, but that's something else. If you see this kind of thing, go turn it off, see if it goes away, that sort of thing. NTP, if you don't like this going to this hard-coded address and you want to do it via DHCP, give it a try, see if that goes away. It's really important that all your IoT devices, your web cameras, your temperature sensors, whatever they happen to be, you know exactly how they're behaving. So that way they don't talk outside of your network and they don't rely on talking outside of your network to make sure they work properly, because there's a lot of that too. There's IoT devices that rely on the cloud, and if the cloud does not exist, if it cannot get to its server, then it doesn't behave well, or you get reduced functionality. So that's it. That's a, I don't know, quick and dirty on how to get started with a baseline with an IoT device. Have a good day. Bye for now.